to be bold. The people that are perpetrating hate or bias or stereotypes against us are not afraid to use bold action, and we can't be afraid to do that either.
We are continuously being treated as second-hand citizens, which is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, it's unconstitutional. What makes this country so great is the Bill of Rights and our constitutional rights, and we demand our constitutional rights just like all other residents, ethnic or minority groups in this country.
The Council on American-Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CAIR, has gone to great lengths on this show and many others, seeking to convince Americans they are here for the peaceful discourse about Muslims and their faith, to tamp down any talk of terrorism or that every Muslim is an enemy. But comments from one of their own and a foreign government have raised the issue once again as to motives. It means we will dig for the facts once again. Let us welcome to MidPoint. He is the Regional Operations Director for CAIR-Florida. Nezar Hamze joins us here in the studio. And he is the National Security Analyst for the Clarion Project, who joins us via remote, Ryan Mauro. Gentlemen, I thank you both for being here today. Ryan, thanks so much for being with us here via the remote.
Thank you.
All right. Nezar, I'm going to start with you on this right here because this is a story that caught everybody's attention. This is the United Arab Emirates basically coming out and saying that CAIR is a terrorist organization. It is one of almost 36 that they claim the world needs to be careful of, and that this is a dangerous organization that spreads terrorism and does not look to hold it in check. How do you react when you hear that?
Well, first thing is, God bless America, and thank God we live here in the United States. The first thing I'd like to tell you, Ed, and also the viewers, is we need to understand what CAIR is. CAIR, the Council on American-Islamic Relations, was founded in 1994, and there's a chapter at a headquarters or national in D.C. But CAIR is a federation of chapters, similar to how the United States Congress is, organized. We're each individually selected, elected, funded by our local Muslim leadership, and organized as such. I do not report to CAIR in D.C., or California does not report to CAIR Michigan, so on and so forth.
But you're being painted with a broad brush here.
Absolutely. And that's why I said, thank God we live in the United States of America. The reality is this list was very alarming to everyone in the CAIR group. Because when we look at the list, we're like, first, where did this come from? The chapter, Nihad, CAIR in D.C. has had a long relationship with the UAE and other Middle Eastern countries, because they do, they travel quite a bit, they talk, and the whole mission of CAIR is to enhance the understanding of Islam, to protect the civil liberties and civil rights of Americans, and to build mutual
Then why would they say this? Why, if you have such a close relationship, why would they come out and say that out of 82 groups, not more than 36, 82 groups, they're saying that you're terrorists?
Well, I'm for sure I'm not a terrorist, and all the organization, all the other CAIR chapters are not terrorists. But when we study the list and we look at the list, we find it very surprising who's not on the list. Hamas is not on this list of foreign terrorist organizations. And that's one very broad brush that all of the anti-CAIR or anti-Muslim groups use. That CAIR is, has some kind of affiliation with that terrorist organization. So I don't know, it's very arbitrary. We have reached out to the UAE government. CAIR-Florida, myself, have reached out to the UAE government and been asking them for clarification.
Okay, hold that. I'm going to ask you about that. Ryan, let me go ahead and get you now, because we've heard Hamza talking here, and of course, he says that they're completely shocked about this. What's your reaction?
Well, Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. When you look at the Hamas charter, they declare that they are a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. So when the UAE bans the Muslim Brotherhood, they have banned Hamas. Now, the reason that the UAE banned CAIR is because they consider the Muslim Brotherhood now to be a terrorist organization, and they wanted to drive home the point that the Muslim Brotherhood isn't just a Middle Eastern problem, that they have affiliates in Europe and the United States.
But what about CAIR itself? What about CAIR itself, Ryan? Do you see then CAIR as a terrorist organization?
Give me 1 second. And the CAIR itself is part of that Muslim Brotherhood network here in the United States. We know this because when the U.S. government prosecuted the Holy Land Foundation, part of the Brotherhood network financing Hamas, they labeled CAIR as an unindicted co-conspirator in that trial, but more importantly, they officially listed CAIR as an entity of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood, specifically its Palestine committee that was set up to advance Hamas. Here's a quote from federal prosecutors from another court case in 2007. This is federal prosecutors.
20 seconds.
From its founding by Muslim Brotherhood leaders, CAIR conspired with other affiliates of the Muslim Brotherhood to support terrorists. The conspirators agreed to use deception to conceal from the American public their connections to terrorists. So the UAE is operating off of facts that were confirmed by the U.S. Justice Department.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you to stand by because we have to take a break. Nezar, you stand by as well, chomp at the bit as well, because I know you want to answer that as well. Both gentlemen remain with us after the break, where the entire CAIR organization may have to answer for the comments of one of their own and for what the UAE has said here. And of course, Nezar wants to answer. And at 43 minutes after the hour, using the constitutional card to make the president back down on executive action. That and a lot more right here on MidPoint. Welcome back to MidPoint, everybody. Also, welcome back the Regional Operations Director for CAIR-Florida, Nezar Hamze, joins us here on the studio set, and National Security Analyst for the Clarion Project, Ryan Mauro. All right, Nezar, I'm going to come to you because Ryan, right before the break, had indicated that there is evidence that the Muslim Brotherhood is involved with CAIR, and that is what he is using as part of his decision process, and others do as well. Your response?
Well, there's two perspectives we're looking at here. We have the public perspective, which Ryan is very good at regurgitating and keep producing the same stories on the internet and through his group over and over and over again. And then we have a legal perspective. No U.S. government or no U.S. prosecutor has ever said that CAIR has any ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. CAIR is completely independent of the entire CAIR organization as its own entity. We have nothing to do with the Muslim Brotherhood. However, people often taint and try to smear CAIR because CAIR is such a large organization with this same rhetoric.
But where does that come from then? Because apparently Ryan says he has evidence.
No, their evidence is very, very, very well documented by themselves. They create it, they regurgitate it, they put it out on the internet, and it's fantastical. Everybody believes it. And they make these statements. In reality, it's just a bunch of propaganda.
All right, so Ryan, are you just throwing out propaganda here that people are making up on the web?
No, I'm reciting, as I did in the opening segment, the words of federal prosecutors that have nothing to do with the organization that I work for. This that I'm holding up is a copy of the unindicted co-conspirators list, where it specifically says that CAIR is a branch of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. That is from the Justice Department.
Okay, wait, hang on 1 sec. Well, hold on 1 sec, Ryan.
First of all, it doesn't say anything like that. The unindicted co-conspirator list is a list of unindicted co-conspirators, meaning that they were not charged with anything, that they were unindicted. That's all that list is.
Okay.
And they use that as a smear campaign.
Ryan, where did that list come from?
Denied that it's part of the Muslim Brotherhood. It says there that CAIR is linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. You lied to the audience.
Where did that list come from?
This is part of the Holy Land Foundation trial that can be printed out online. Here's a Muslim Brotherhood document that was submitted as part of that trial, saying that part of their meetings is to develop the work of CAIR. Again, here you can see the Muslim Brotherhood talking about CAIR.
Okay, now what Nezar, say that again.
First of all, we have nothing to do with the production of that document, and Ryan knows that. But they're putting that out like CAIR is some big conspiracy, fantastical, trying to take over the world.
So why would they put that out there then?
Because they have an agenda.
What is
the agenda?
Whose agenda?
The groups like the Clarion Fund, Act for America, they have a very malicious agenda. As a matter of fact, when this UAE list came out, the Clarion Fund was almost immediately blasting emails all over the country trying to defame CAIR, saying, please disassociate yourself with CAIR. Ask Ryan about that. That's because they have an agenda.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you, Ryan, is that fair? He says you have an agenda.
No. Because, for example, we interview Muslim activists that stand against the radical Islamist ideology constantly. And the documents that I was just showing your audience came from the Justice Department and the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. So you have the Justice Department and the Muslim Brotherhood both agreeing that CAIR belongs to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Okay, now wait a minute. I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here. Would not the Muslim Brotherhood, though, is it not possible that they're simply looking to smear somebody else?
No, because you had the leaders of CAIR at a 1993 meeting in Philadelphia, which was wiretapped by the FBI, where they were discussing creating CAIR in order to advance the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas agenda. And they specifically talked about how to play games with semantics in order to mislead the American public. And by the way, CAIR constantly does this game where anyone who criticizes them, even if you are a Muslim, they call you an anti-Muslim bigot, and you just got an example.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there for a second. Now, we only got about 90 seconds left. Sure. Go ahead and answer that, because there's a lot of charges in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the reality, Ed. The reality is we live in the United States of America. We operate under the U.S. Constitution. CAIR, no CAIR leader, no CAIR organization, no CAIR chapter has ever been charged with a crime. The unindicted co-conspirator list is just that. It's an unindicted co-conspirator list, meaning no CAIR chapter or CAIR organization has ever done anything that warrants an indictment.
But it means they're looking, they're watching.
Well, no, that just means there's a list of a name.
Okay.
Also, that same federal judge made a comment regarding that list saying that this was unconstitutional. That list should have never been published because there's no opportunity for an exchange for CAIR to come back and say why I'm on that list. It's just a blatant list of things. And also, with that unindicted co-conspirator list, there was every major U.S. Muslim organization on there. Now, regarding Ryan's group and what he's
20 seconds.
Yeah, what he's continually trying to regurgitate is CAIR is a terrorist organization. Let me tell you something. We live in the United States. I have a family in the United States. That is complete malarkey. But they have an agenda. And their agenda is to smear the Muslim community and put who they think should be speaking for the Muslim community, not what the majority of Muslims think in the United States.
I'll give you 10 seconds to answer back, Ryan.
Sure. I'm reciting the words of the Justice Department. This isn't coming out of the Clarion Project, and it's because of this type of conduct by CAIR that only about 12% of Muslim Americans identify CAIR as the group that most represents them.
Okay,
and
there's
if
your 10 seconds.
Are independent and you disagree with their conduct,
We got to go ahead and hold it there.
organization.
Ryan, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much, Nezar. Thanks so much for coming in again. I have a feeling we're going to be here a lot more often to discuss this.
Thanks, Ed.
And
I
we
appreciate
certainly
it.
will always give you the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
appreciate
And
it.
thank you very much, Ryan, as well. All right, break. We're heading to Las Vegas where the car coach is dealing with what you'll be driving in the next few years. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint.